Well, which Scooter Gang did you like more, Matt? The Scooter Gang in the Book of Boba Fett or the Scooter Gang in Larry Crown?
You know what? I guess I have to, by default, go with the Book of Boba Fett because at least there was kind of like some good vibrancy and color to the scooters they were riding. They had some fun action scenes as opposed to Larry Crown, the worst movie I've ever seen, as we all know. That Scooter Gang, I'm not 100% sure what their motivation was. Apparently they were all dating each other and they didn't like that Larry Crown, who is like a 90-year-old man, wanted to date them too. And there was nothing exciting about it. So as much as it pains me to say, I think I have to go with Book of Boba Fett has the better Scooter Gang.
And Matt, can you remind me who directed and wrote Larry Crown?
Tom Hanks. A true shame. And I'll say, I said it on, go back and check it out, everybody, on our best rom-com brackets this year. I said it there. I'll say it again. Tom Hanks, one of our great actors. He needs to get in front of the camera and never go behind it again. Garbage director. Garbage writer. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Arnies. We are three foundlings forced into the creed who definitely don't want any part of it. I'm Matt Johnson, and I want to know, what do these masked Mandos smell like?
I'm Keith Baker, and I'm happy we got Davy Jones in this season.
That space pirate looks terrible. And I'm Austin Terry, and I never want to see a Mandalorian fight a space monster again.
On today's show, of course, we are returning to The Mandalorian over on Disney+. It's been 2.5 years since season 2 of The Mandalorian, which is crazy to think about. And now it is time for season 3. Austin and Keith, let everyone know your thoughts on The Mandalorian in general. I mean, it's been so long since we talked about it. It's crazy to think that we were still doing this podcast when The Mandalorian season 2 was out, and I think we were doing weekly episodes at that time. So kind of catch everybody up if they haven't heard. What do you think of this show in general, as well as your non-spoiler thoughts on season 3, now that we only have, I think 3 episodes left, maybe?
Yeah, I would say I've enjoyed, for the most part, everything The Mandalorian has put out up until season 3. And that's a little tease to get into things later. But season 1 and 2, I really enjoyed with The Mandalorian. I thought they found a good way to make Star Wars fun and not tell a story so centric on the Empire and the Rebellion and all the stuff we've seen so many times. I enjoyed season 1, but I thought season 2 was significantly better than season 1. I thought they found a good way to have a central plot, but also work in the kind of fun side stories that the show likes to do. And going into season 3, I think my biggest issue is that there is no central plot. It almost feels like they don't know what story they want to tell with this season. I think so far, this is one of the most boring seasons of TV I've watched this year, maybe since the Book of Boba Fett. I'm very underwhelmed with this season. I honestly don't even want to finish it. I think it's pretty terrible. I've kind of been dreading every week when a new episode comes out because I get more and more disappointed and frustrated with this season. That's kind of where I'm at. I don't like The Mandalorian season 3, and it kind of bums me to say that because I really enjoyed season 1 and season 2.
I'm pretty much along the same lines as you, Austin, as far as season 1 and season 2. I might be a little higher in season 1 than you, but season 2 is definitely stronger for me as well. Lots of good story points, good action. They brought in a lot of really, really neat side characters. And then the way the story progressed, it felt like it was building towards something, which was enjoyable. But yeah, going into season 3, I'm pretty much with you. I was thinking the same exact line that you just said, bummed is the best word I can think of right now. It's man, I love Star Wars. I love watching all these shows, but this season is really bumming me out.
You are a resident Star Wars fanboy, so when Star Wars bombs, it bombs really hard for you.
And I'm trying my best to like it. That's the thing. I'm trying really hard, but it's I'm kind of like you. It's getting kind of boring. There's one episode in here that I think was actually pretty good, that I'll, share with you guys later, and maybe you guys might agree or disagree. But the other ones, the other 4, yeah, not a lot's going on in them. I don't know what the overall intention or motivation of this season is. I don't know what they're trying to get at. I think there's definitely some characters that maybe shouldn't have brought back from the previous seasons that were weaker, and the editing is off. Everything just kind of seems off about this season, and it just seems very weak. Weak is the best way I can really put it. I'm just not very satisfied with what we're getting. I feel like it should be getting better and better as it goes along, and it's going the complete opposite direction. So I hate to say it, but yeah, season 3 has just not been great for me so far.
Matt, I know you're going to jump in here with your thoughts, but I want to reiterate a point Keith made because I think it's very astute with this season and this show. There are so many characters that they keep feeling the need to bring back and give screen time to that we never needed to see after last season. Pelimoto, do not care. Why is she in the show? We give so much time to this character, it's pointless.
Yeah, that's fair. I agree with that. It's a big ensemble cast. I think they do a decent job of, like, giving the cast, like, those super side characters like that. I mean, she was only in, like, one episode, I think, if I remember right. So it's like, okay, well, no.
One episode too many for me.
Agreed. But still, it's like, okay, you know, it's just like one catching up with an old friend type of thing for Mando. But we have a lot of characters that are in multiple episodes this season, which feels a little bit different from past seasons. This season's been very weird for me. I watched the first one when it came out. I think, like, the second that it was available, I probably watched it. I probably stayed up late to watch it because I wasn't sleeping. And I was like, that kind of sucked.
It probably put you to sleep.
Yeah, I felt great after that. I went right to sleep. And I watched the second one the week after, and to be honest, I don't even really remember my thoughts on it. I think there were some things I thought were cool when it came to, like, some of the Mandalore stuff. But nothing about it was good or cool enough to compel me to keep watching. And I think I talked about with Austin off air about some of that stuff in the past. Like, I was like, oh yeah, I haven't watched it. And then whenever we were trying to figure out what episode to record this week, it was like, oh, we're going to do Mandalorian. Okay, that's cool. But I have to watch, like, I think 4 episodes or whatever it is, like 3 or 4, because I haven't been watching since episode 2. And that's the first time in Mandalorian's history where I've, like, just been like, I don't really care. And that's, like, kind of weird to talk about because I did not like season 1, like, really at all, but I still watched it every week. Season 2 I thought was so much better, and the main reason why, you guys both alluded to it, is because even though it had the same structure, like, of 8 episodes and, like, that whole season 1 of Mandalorian thing, it had the structure of, like, there's going to be a lot of, like, side content here. You know, it's not going to be a straight line to the end game, like the end goal. And I was like, okay, but I felt like taking Mando and Grogu, and it's like, okay, we need to get Grogu to this Jedi that he's been, like, somehow communicating with. That's the goal. And it took, like, 8 episodes to get there. And I thought it was super compelling. The side stuff found, like, a really cool way to inform the main stuff. Like, whenever Grogu, I always think about him, like, meditating on that, like, that hill. And then that's when they reintroduced Boba Fett. And Boba Fett kind of takes out all the guards coming in to get Grogu. And it's like, oh, that was a good timing. And then Grogu and Mando kind of relate to each other, become friends. It's like, wow, that was a cool way to do, like, a side thing and tie it into the main story. Season 3 has been really dropping the ball on that because, like Austin said, I don't know what the main story is because they certainly set it up that it was retaking Mandalore. I won't spoil anything, but it's taken over half of the season, and now I'm kind of like, oh, I think that's what it is, but I still don't know. It still seems like, oh, maybe we need to train Grogu. We need to spend more time with him. Maybe we need to spend more time outside of the Mando characters and learn about other characters. It's just very odd. The best thing I'll say about it, and this is the last thing I'll say, is I was dreading doing this episode because I knew timing-wise I was going to have to watch like 3 or 4 back-to-back, and I did not really want to. But you know what? I thought, okay, this isn't bad. I had a better time than I was thinking, and maybe that's because I got to binge it. I wasn't like watching one episode and then waiting a week to watch another 30-minute episode. That's probably the best thing I can say. I do have a lot of positive I want to talk about, but I'm still just so confused about the focus of this season.
Yeah, the focus of this season is the big thing for me. Because there's no, like, with season 2 we had, who is this Jedi figure? Who is Grogu going to go to? We had that, like, hook of I want to understand this mystery. That's totally absent in season 3. There's no, like, guiding direction. And I thought the Mandalore stuff was going to be really cool and interesting. Also a minor spoiler, but we've been to Mandalore twice now, and it's super boring. So if that's the hook for this season, I don't care.
Yeah. Or at least give us more information about Mandalore to make us want to be interested in it. Maybe there's some stuff about it we don't know about yet, but they don't talk about it at all. It's like, we have to go back to Mandalore. It's like, okay, why? Why do you want to go back there so bad? Like, it looks like a pretty shitty planet from the looks of it.
This is one of those things, Keith. I don't know about you. I know you've watched. I know Austin started, but I know Mandalore plays a huge role into Star Wars Clone Wars. But I haven't watched that yet. And I do want to watch it. I am excited to watch it. But I shouldn't have to watch it to understand like the wow moments of Mandalore. Whenever Bo-Katan has moments of like talking about it, and then you hear like a quick like a music sting, it's like I feel like I'm supposed to feel something, but I don't, because I know nothing about this place. And this show should balance those moments while also setting up what this is. And they skip over that because I think Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni and the team were like, well, they probably watched Star Wars Clone Wars, right? And it's like, well, I didn't. And I'm sorry I didn't. I will, I promise. But you're kind of like messing up some of this stuff because I think you expected us to watch that.
I agree. Yeah, this show should be able to balance educating the average viewer on some of the Star Wars stuff and then also still having fan moments for people who have watched the Clone Wars and are more heavily invested in this franchise than others.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. I'm with you, though, Matthew. I'm not completely negative on this season so far. There are
me neither.
some positives.
Yeah.
I hate it.
Now that we're talking about it, I'm excited to get into spoilers because I think I'm going to have maybe the biggest surprise of my biggest positive might really surprise you guys. So I'm excited to get to that. So that's probably the best tease. Everybody, if you have not watched The Mandalorian Season 3, I'm sure you have, but if you have not watched episodes 1 through 5 at this point, we have 8 episodes this season, so we're over halfway. If you've not checked those out over on Disney+, go check them out and then come on back to listen to our conversation. There's a lot to talk about, and that's always my favorite conversations. Even if there's something that we don't really love that much, but it has a lot of interesting stuff, good or bad, to talk about, I think that makes for some of our favorite combos. So I'm super excited. Here's your official and final spoiler warning.
I'm excited to get into this episode. I am terrified for the Ahsoka show now.
Yeah. All right, everybody, welcome to spoiler territory. There is so much interesting in both good and bad ways to talk about with The Mandalorian Season 3 so far. Austin and Keith, though, let's start it off as we always do. Who are our cast and crew?
All right, so The Mandalorian is, of course, created by Jon Favreau, and this season has seen episodes directed by Rick Famuyiwa, Rachel Morrison, Lee Isaac Chung, Carl Weathers, and Peter Ramsey. Our writers for this season are Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, and Noah Clore, and our score for the show is composed by Ludwig Göransson and Peter Shirley, and of course, based on characters from Star Wars originally created by George Lucas.
And going into our cast, we have Pedro Pascal as Din Djarin, the Mandalorian, Katie Sackhoff as Bo-Katan, Carl Weathers as Greef Karga, Omid Apahi as Dr. Pershing, Emily Swallow as the Armorer, Amy Sedaris as Pelimoto, Tamara Morrison as the voice of the clones, Katie M. O'Brien as Elia Kane, Paul Sun-Hung Lee as Carson Teva, Jon Favreau as Paz Vizsla, Wesley Kimmel as Ragnar Vizsla, and we got Tim Meadows as Colonel Tuttle, and we got Ahmad Best as Kelleran Beck, the Jedi that saved Grogu. Best played Jar Jar in the prequels. All right, guys.
Misa, Misa!
Yeah.
Misa, Grogu!
All right, guys. There's our cast and crew. Any positives, any negatives? What do we got?
Yeah, I'm going to give a big old stinking negative
Whoa!
to every writer that has worked on Season 3. I don't know what they're thinking. They came off such a high note of The Mandalorian Season 2. Also, in the Book of Boba Fett, everything they gave us from The Mandalorian was great. So I don't know what happened in between now and then. It really feels like they lost their direction and the purpose and the reason for the show existing. They still haven't justified Season 3's existence to me. And I think all of our character moments just feel very cheap and hollow. Every time they have to go up and fight a space monster, it feels pointless. It just feels like they're wasting my time with this season. And you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm also going to give a negative to Pedro Pascal as Din Djarin the Mandalorian. I think his voice acting this season sounds hollow, and it sounds like he's bored as hell with this show.
I think it's always sounded like that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say bad acting, but I think it's always sounded very distant and hollow.
You have to know how to navigate star charts, Grogu.
Yeah.
I'm not on set for this show.
It's I've never understood like the amount of love that he's gotten for this specifically, because it's not great. It's very. I don't think it's his fault though. I think that's the direction of the voice acting, and I think
it ties into the writing too.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
All the Mandalorians sound weird.
Yeah, that's true.
The only one that sounds good is Katie Sackhoff because she's literally a professional voice actor.
Yeah, that's true. I think she sounds the best. But they're still even voicing her. Like, they're forcing her, I should say, to, like, just be a voice actor this season when she's in live action. So even that's kind of odd. I think she's great this season, but I have a lot of questions about the character that I'm curious to kind of probe your guys' mind. This is an interesting list for me. I don't know. I think I'll give some positives. I don't think I'm going to give a negative today. I'll give some positives. I want to shout out Carl Weathers, of course, as Grief Karga. Not only because he's great as the character, but because he directed my favorite episode so far, I think.
Didn't he direct the pterodactyl episode? The one that has like the most wasted time of anything this season?
I thought it was the previous episode. So I can't say that. So no.
Wait, the previous episode was the Pershing episode. Also a wasted time.
Oh, you're right.
Ooh.
Okay, so hold on. So let me see. Can I even give a positive or negative here? Hold on. Let me read this list again. Okay. I'll do a fun one. I don't have much positive to say. There is one that I think deserves at least a little shout out because it's such a fun fact. I think we need to give our boy Ahmed Best as Kelleran Beck a shout out because I thought he was cool as the Jedi that saved Grogu. I thought that was a fun sequence. I liked his scenes. I liked that. And it made me, for the first time in 3 seasons of this show, actually curious about Grogu's past because, correct me if I'm wrong, but like in season 1, I think maybe we saw like a literal like 2-second flash of like, oh, Grogu was at Order 66. And then in season 2, maybe we got a little bit more. But here we got an actual sequence, and I like that it didn't end with like Kelleran Beck getting killed. I like that it was like, oh, they're going out, they're hitting hyperspace. They're probably going to go to the path that we saw in Obi-Wan Kenobi, or like Jedis that survived Order 66 are like kind of secretly going through. I was like, oh, that's cool. I'm curious to see how Grogu, for the first time, like got from there to where he was at in that first episode of Mandalorian season 1. And I think Ahmed Best did like a good job in that performance. And it was fun to see him. So that's really my main positive. I just thought that was like a super cool kind of cameo, kind of main role. I'm sure we'll see him again, but either way, I like that.
So I don't disagree with you, but I do have some pushback because, yes, I think it's really cool for Ahmed Best to get to come back to Star Wars and play a really cool Jedi character. At the same time, I do feel like this was also kind of wasted because they didn't reveal anything new about Grogu for me. I already knew he was there for Order 66.
And you could have assumed that he got away. So yeah, that's fair.
I also think you're giving the show a little bit of credit for something you haven't seen yet. Because if they don't show us the path or any of that stuff, then it's kind of like, what was the point of this flashback?
That's true. That's fair. All right. It sounds like this will be my final hot take. I don't know if I'll have a hotter one, so I'm just going to say it. I'm not saying in terms of character, but in terms of acting, I think they deserve a shout out because they got a pretty big highlight this season, for better or worse. I think Omid Abtahi and Katie M. O'Brien as Dr. Pershing and Elia Kane. Is that episode necessary? I don't know yet, but I thought they were very good in it. So that I do want to shout them out for that. I think that's like some of the best acting we've seen this season, but I just don't know about the characters 100% yet.
I don't know. I guess it's hard for me to separate those characters and the performances from how much wasted time I thought that episode has felt like so far.
That's the longest episode, almost a full hour, yeah.
That could change by the time we get to the finale if I finish this season. But I don't know. There's something about it that felt off. I really wanted to like Dr. Pershing, but I also was like, why are we going back to this character from season 1 that I have no connection to? So I was kind of torn on that episode.
In a weird way, it felt like how, and when you were watching Book of Boba Fett, and then like chapter whatever comes up, and it's like, oh, this one's called The Mandalorian, and then Mando walks in, and then you're also surprised about how the next episode is also The Mandalorian. It's like, oh, okay. And this was kind of the same thing. I thought it was like going to be like a quick little thing, and then it was most of the episode. But at the same time, I was like, wow, this is kind of interesting. It's cool to be back at Coruscant. I'm interested in what this character is doing. I'm not 100% sure about what the arc is based on what we've seen him do previously. And my main question is, the way they ended it, I was like, oh, is he dead? Are they going to do more? I don't know. I guess we'll talk about it.
Why is he here?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know.
I also think this season really, and maybe it's not fair, but I have noticed kind of the Andor effect with this season where, oh, it's exciting to see Coruscant, but Andor did Coruscant way better and way more interesting. Oh, it's excited to see the New Republic maybe not be perfect. Andor also did that way more interestingly. season 2 felt way more mature. This feels like for kids. Does it feel like that because we're coming off of Andor, which is way more of like an adult focused show? I don't know, but after something as great as Andor was, it's kind of been a noticeable step down to come into The Mandalorian after how great that show was.
Yeah. That's exactly what my dad and I were saying today. We were talking about it, and I was like, do you think Andor, I asked him, I was like, do you think Andor was just too good? And now coming back to Mando, it's just feeling like, Andor is like a 45-pound weight, and now we're coming back to Mando, and it just feels like a measly, like 2.5-pound weight. It's just not carrying itself like it did before after seeing Andor.
I think it's fair to hold Star Wars to that standard, though, because they've proven they can do it. And if everyone just keeps accepting mediocre stuff, we're not going to get stuff like Andor in the future.
Yeah, okay, so that's the right word to use. We shouldn't accept mediocre stuff. I think when it comes to Andor, I love that. I mean, I can honestly say I think Empire Strikes Back, Andor, like those are my top 2 Star Wars things of all time.
I would throw Rogue One in there, but okay.
I think you're crazy. No, I hear you.
It's definitely not Solo.
Great movie. I think we all agree on that. Andor is so good, and the writing of that is so specific with what Gilroy was doing. But I've always been of the camp that the rest of the Star Wars shows, they shouldn't have that writing. And whenever I say that, people are like, oh, you want it to be bad? I'm like, no, I don't want it to be bad. I just don't think all of the Star Wars shows would fit that writing style. I want them to have that writing quality, but I don't think that type of writing would work for every show. But now watching this, it's like, for me, it's like now that I've watched this many episodes, it's not that Mando season 3 is like not up to snuff. It's just that the writing is not good. It's not because I'm like, yeah, I wish this was as good as Andor. It's like, no, it's just, it's weird. It's just weird in general. So, I don't know. I'm curious how this will continue because it's very odd.
And I don't think every single project needs to be like Star Wars for adults, because there should definitely be like Star Wars for kids.
Yeah.
But I also think they have such like weird moments where like Grogu is trying to hug a puppet alien and he's like, down, put me down. It's like they didn't do that in season 1 and 2. And it's very clear, like he ate the eggs, but that was a little bit darker. Like it felt more of like a learning a cultural thing, Whereas this was so clear. This was just so they could put out a Twitter clip of Grogu hugging a puppet alien and being like, look how cute he is. He just wanted a hug. And like stuff like that. It feels like they kind of dumbed it down this season.
Season 1 or season 2, the action was just a little bit way more intense. And we're facing a lot darker of characters. And then we're going into season 3, and like you said, everything just kind of feels like it's regressed in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I'm just scared that season 3 is going the way of season 1. And season 1, really, when you go back and watch it, is just the ending of episode 1, the pilot, whenever, like, he opens this pod and, like, there's, like, a fucking Baby Yoda in there. And then that final shot, the wide shot of him, like, putting his finger down and, like, they touch fingers is like, wow, that's what's going to happen? Like, I have no idea. And then the rest of the season just meandered until the finale when Moff Gideon showed up. And it's like, I need that baby. And it's like, oh, okay, this is the point of the season. And season 2 was so much better about, okay, we need to get Grogu to a Jedi. That's going to take 8 episodes. It's going to take the whole season. But we're going to, like, focus on that the entire time. They nailed it. They introduced side stuff throughout there. Season 3, Austin said it right at the beginning, non-spoilers. I couldn't tell you what the goal is. I think now that we're 5 episodes in, out of 8, I think it is we're going to retake Mandalore. That's how this last episode ended, so that's my assumption. But still, okay, we're training Grogu to be a Mandalorian. Bo-Katan has her own arc. Mando seems kind of complacent after bathing in the waters of Mandalore. It's like, I don't really know. And Dr. Pershing, did he die at the end of that episode? I don't know. And if not, I assume he has a big story to continue because they give him a full episode. I don't know. So I just don't know what the focus of this is. And it's kind of a weird problem to have.
Do you feel like we're spending too much time away from Mando with this season? Because we do have the Coruscant episode. We have a lot of stuff with like Brief Karga and the Republic Scouts and Bo-Katan. And it doesn't feel like Mando is our main character this season. So what are your thoughts on that?
He does kind of feel like a background character right now. He just now seems to be part of the group now. It's him and Katie Sackhoff or Bo-Katan, and then the armor and the rest of the gang. It just seems to be collectively the group of Mandalorians now, and now Din Djarin is just he's one of them, which is cool, but yeah, it's not really focusing on him except for like the second episode when he goes to the waters. He doesn't have a lot of dialogue either. It feels like he's just kind of saying a few words here and there, and saying, like you said earlier, Grogu, don't hug him, leave him alone. That's kind of seems to be the climax of his character right now. So
yeah, he's just not super interesting to me. I think the setup for this season was great. And it's like, okay, so we have season 3, that's where Mando is going to try and redeem himself. And I think the hope for all of us was we would at least get some dialogue about why he's redeeming himself, because it's not super exciting. I mean, I certainly don't fucking fist pump whenever I see, like, the Armorer and Paz Vizsla, and it's like, all of these, like, crazy cultist Mandalorians. I'm not, like, excited about Mando doing the same thing, and I'm definitely not excited about him passing that specifically on to Grogu. I mean, that sounds awful. So it's like, I thought he would bathe in the waters maybe towards the end of the season and then decide, I don't want that. I'm not saying that would have been better, I'm just saying that's what I expected. And now they've given us a season where they've knocked that out right at the beginning, and now he's just kind of there.
I think it goes back to the whole, what is the central plot of this season? Because I couldn't tell you that. I don't know what the storyline is for this season, because I thought it was going to be, I need to retake Mandalore, and I need to redeem myself. To retake Mandalore, I need Bo-Katan's help, I need her army, and I have to go kill whatever is on Mandalore to get to the waters. That's what I thought the season was going to be. And then in the second episode, he redeems himself, and he just sits there and goes, I'm redeemed. And so that kind of kills that plot line off. So what is he there for right now? Because I guess it's to train Grogu, but that's not an interesting show. Because I thought Grogu was going to be a Jedi.
Yeah, me too. And also to bring that like former point even further, it just seems like they brought in Bo-Katan in some really cool ways to kind of experience, you know, this different version of the Mandalorians. In some ways, it's weird that she's like going along with it. In some ways, I like it. But then our episode ends, like our most recent episode ends with her like, okay, I'm taking up the mantle. I've walked both worlds. I'm going to do this. Like, I'm going to take back Mandalore. And it's like, okay.
Who cares?
Yeah.
I will say this. Bo-Katan so far is the most interesting character this season. Because she at least has an arc. And I'm curious to see how she is going to walk both worlds. But I also came to the show to see the Mandalorian and Grogu. So... like, who is the main character? It goes back to that question.
Yeah, and forgive me, I may be getting my Star Wars canon wrong. I feel like I'm trying to put myself back at the Season 2 finale, but wasn't the whole thing that for Bo-Katan always wanted to take back Mandalore, but she couldn't because she didn't have the Darksaber. So doesn't she now, at this point, she's like, I'm going to take back Mandalore. Doesn't she need the Darksaber? So doesn't she need to fight Mando, which she could have done like 5 years ago in our timeline or whatever it is?
It is weird that the Darksaber hasn't come up at all.
It
like,
has
they've said
not
it one time.
This season. How weird.
Yeah, Bo-Katan just asks him in the opening episode, do you have the Darksaber? He says yes, and then she says, I can't help you. So it's like, okay. But then she helps him, so she went against that.
Yeah, that was weird.
Now she has to go get all the other Mandalore, but she's also said the other Mandalore don't respect me because I don't have the Darksaber. So at what point is the Darksaber going to come up in any conversation?
Yeah, and now, like, the Armorer is saying, you walk both worlds. So she's telling Bo-Katan, you can go recruit everybody.
And take off your helmet.
Exactly, but based on our previous knowledge, she can't bring them in without the Darksaber. And she has said that in order to bring them in. So it's like, oh, okay. So I guess she's just going to go out without her helmet and try and bring them in.
I have a theory about, okay, I have a little conspiracy theory about this season. So the redemption was set up to be a big plot of this season. They even teased it in the Book of Boba Fett show. I have a theory that Pedro went to the creators and said, hey, I'm really busy right now. I can't be on set a whole lot. I can still do your dumb little voice thing, but I'm not going to be there. And so they just redeemed him really quick in this season. That way he had to keep his helmet on for the entire season, and Pedro just had to do the voice stuff and didn't have to appear on set.
I'm going to go on the complete opposite end. It's like, I hear what you're saying, but it's like, I hate that he's being redeemed. I think that's so uninteresting. And I hate that he's
It
now...
was too easy,
He's
too.
now forcing his redemption onto Grogu to now be a foundling to become a Mandalorian. It's like, I just think, I'm not trying to rewrite your show, but him, like, becoming a Mandalorian who has been a Mandalorian since almost birth, when he was, like, kind of rescued by them. And now he's just, I don't know, going about his life, doing the bounties and doing all this shit. And it's like, oh, I took off my mask too many times. I'm going to go bathe in the waters of Mandalore. Oh, I bathed in them. I'm redeemed. I'm going to keep my mask on. It's like, I don't know. Wouldn't it be more interesting if he, like, rejected that philosophy? Because they gave us Bo-Katan. Wasn't that the point of her? To, like, show us a Mandalorian that, like, wasn't about that life? And then in this show,
And shouldn't he be
she's
annoyed
just curious
that he had to go
about
through
it.
all this?
Yeah, I would think so. So, to your point, Austin, I don't know if that's the exact reason, but it does seem like, oh, we redeemed him and now he's a Mando again. And I'm like, wow, I never gave a fuck about that. That's not at all what I was interested in.
The redemption just seemed way too simple for me. They did it in episode 2. Like, they teased this. They teased this for 2.5 years, and he just sits in the water and goes, I'm redeemed. That training montage in the pterodactyl episode is like some of the worst stuff I've ever seen.
It was really bad. 1 point win. That was like a Taekwondo tournament that I went to when I was like 7 years old. I was like, wow, this is on par. That's kind of shocking.
Also, they either need to get Andy Serkis and mocap or never show me a puppet Grogu flipping around with the Force again, because that looked horrible.
Yeah, that Grogu flip when he was fighting the kid was probably the worst thing the show has ever produced. When he did the front flip and then the back flip over, and he did like close-ups as he did it, it was like, wow, that's bad.
And you know they have a budget. Like, this is Star Wars premiere thing.
I don't like that Grogu's even in this season. I wish he
Oh,
would've
that's
never came
right,
back.
Keith. That's right. We forgot about that.
I'm starting to side with you, Keith, because when has the plan ever been for him to become a Mandalorian? That feels so shoved
He
in
had
there
the
this
perfect
season.
ending with season 2 for him to go with Luke, and that should have been it of his story. He's now, when I talked about editing earlier, they are constantly cutting to Grogu's face in reaction to everything that's going on. It's just like, if Din Djarin's shooting at something, it cuts to Grogu like, and then if he's talking to Grief, Karga, it just,
please.
yeah, Karga, it just cuts to his face non-stop. It's cuts, and just to get him his little baby reactions, it's like, oh my god, we get it.
At some point, he's got to speak, right?
I mean, that's the great question, Austin. Because let's talk about it. Let's get deep into Star Wars for once on this show. Because we don't like Star Wars, except for Keith. So let's get into it. So, of course, my immediate thought in Grogu's flashback is, so he's like 60 years old, right? Because if you're looking at where he is in Mando Season 3, I think Revenge of the Sith Order 66 would be like 30, 35 years previously. And he looks the exact same. He's a baby.
Yeah.
And we know Yoda died at like 900 years old. So we have a long way to go for Grogu to speak, which I only bring up because they say something along the lines of like, until he speaks, he can't be one of us. Or whatever it is. So it's like, okay, well, that's going to be in like probably conservatively 20 seasons from now. we don't know.
Well, and also if you just think about the flashbacks of him being at the Jedi Temple and training, and who was he communicating with? Because he's just going,
we don't know.
"Bah, bah, 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 bah." So what was he learning?
I mean, the question is, was Yoda or Yaddle involved with that? I know it sounds fucking stupid, but we have to bring it up if this is like a Yoda or Yaddle looking child. I mean,
If he was there, he should have interacted with Yoda.
I mean, yeah, that much seems clear. We just haven't seen any scenes of them. But I have
and you
to
know
wonder.
what? If that had been the flashback, that's new information.
That would have been pretty cool.
It wouldn't have felt like wasted
Would have been
time.
pretty cool. So I don't know. I want to see that.
Or give us Yaddle. I mean, we saw her in Tales of the Jedi. Let's see her in this.
I don't know. Could be Grogu's mama. Could be Grogu's mama.
right, we went on a tangent there. Let's circle back now to Bo-Katan. The only interesting I've found in this season so far has been her being targeted by a mysterious Imperial warlord. Did you guys like that sequence of her homeworld getting destroyed? Do you have any theories about why she's being targeted? Do you think this is Moff Gideon? Because they keep teasing him. I guess he's coming back.
Well, we got like the first major tease at the end of our most recent episode where he clearly escaped the prison ship. So he's definitely coming back. We got to have our boy Giancarlo Esposito back.
But what's his motivation? Is it just the
None
Darksaber
of us know.
again?
We don't know.
Because we've seen that.
We don't care or know. We know he's in this season. He's coming, but we don't care or know.
It's kind of implied that she's kind of done a lot of crazy shit, right? When she had her other team members with her.
Well, she says that too. She says, I've pissed off a lot of Imperial warlords. But I hope that's not the only reason, because this was an extended sequence.
I think it will. I think the ties to the past are from both Star Wars, Clone Wars, and Rebels. But I think they're doing a good job post-Return of the Jedi of reintroducing Bo-Katan. I think she's a very interesting character. I like the dynamic between her and Mando when it comes to being, like, different Mandalorians. I love that. And I think I could probably say the best thing about this season is, despite that feeling, I kind of liked that she was, I wouldn't say liked, but I would say curious about the Mando customs that she had criticized in season 2. I kind of like that she showed up to this like weird cave in this Mandalorian commune with the armor and everybody. And she was like, okay, I'll keep my helmet on. I'll do everything you ask. Because I'm curious about it. And that's always how it read to me, is that she was curious. Not that she was like fully bought in.
And it was interesting that she accidentally redeemed herself by saving Pedro. So she didn't even want to be redeemed, but now she is. So now it's kind of like, well, I guess I'll check it out for a bit. So like that's way more interesting to me than Din Djarin getting redeemed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, to me, it just seemed like she was kind of going, like you said, she's kind of just going with it. She's like, oh shit, I was redeemed too. It's like, I didn't mean for that to happen. But then the armorer, I think the armorer was smart enough to know, like, nah, Bo-Katan's just going along with this. Like, I'm gonna go ahead and do her a solid here and let her off the chain.
Do you guys care at all about this Mythotar plot?
I kind of care when it comes to the story, but I more so care when it comes to Katie Sackhoff and Emily Swallow's, like, I guess we could say voice acting. Because I thought that scene was really good. And I really enjoyed seeing the armor kind of confront, like, that's supposed to be a myth. Because this cult of the Mandalorian, we're supposed to, like, know, like, they're very intense. They don't kind of follow most customs. So the idea that she heard this and kind of followed it, I thought was super cool. But I loved this. I thought this was great. And it's like, okay, Bo-Katan, super compelling. The idea of her having her mask off, that makes sense because she kind of mostly grew up as a Mandalorian, but as one that had her mask off. So it's like, that makes sense. But she's still...
And Katie Sackhoff is on set, so she can take her helmet off.
Yeah. But of course, she's still supposed to be the one that's going to lead us. So that's kind of the question. It's like, there's like so few episodes left. I don't know what's going to happen. For the first time in this season, like we've kind of joked about previously, it's like, I guess we're finally here at the main goal. That's what it seems like, but we'll see.
Yeah, it seems like we finally arrived at, we need to take Mandalore back. But my question now is, we've been to Mandalore twice.
Yeah.
What are they taking it back from? There's no army there. There's no occupying force. It seems like they're just taking it back from the environment, but they don't need an army to do that. They just need, like, willing colonizers.
Yeah, the sad answer is probably the remaining pirates from episode 5 will follow them there.
Oh my god. I don't care at all about these pirates. They get a place to move, and then immediately they're like, now we have to go back to Mandalore. It's like, this seems way better than Mandalore.
Yeah, like, this is actually a nice
Definitely,
planet.
definitely. So, we only have 3 episodes left, which I'm very nervous about, because for once in this season, we finally got characters saying, hey, you know what? Now's the time. This bump, let's do it, because we gotta retake a Mandalore. I know the 3 of us were like, isn't that what the whole season was supposed to be? Apparently not. And you know what? That's fine, as long as the rest of it's good. Turns out it wasn't. But Guys, what are you hoping to see from these last, kind of couple episodes? Is there something specific when it comes to retaking Mandalore that will, I don't know, get you excited? Or are we just kind of, fucked on this show? Because, like I said with Austin earlier, I wasn't going to watch any of this until I found out that we had to record it. Record an episode on it. And I probably would have watched it, after the season was done, but I was like, I'm done. So tell me, where are we at with this show?
I really hate to be a downer, but I'm not excited for the second half of this season.
Okay.
I don't really care. And honestly, I don't think I'm going to watch it. I think I'm going to tune out here. Maybe I'll wait, and if you guys say, hey, it was worth seeing through, I might go back to it, but I think I'm done. I'm not wasting my time with more Star Wars stuff I don't care about.
Yeah, I think I am going to watch it. It's just because it'll bother me if I don't, and it's only 3 episodes left, so I might as well just watch it. But and I will let you guys know if y'all don't end up watching it. I will let you know how it goes. Now, if you said to me, Austin, you got 12 more episodes of this, I'd be like, oh, I'll just binge it later on, a couple months from now. But I'll go ahead and finish it out. As far as what do I expect, I don't even know at this point. I don't know what they're trying to do. I guess hopefully I'm just hoping they can close a can of worms that they've opened, which is the Dr. Pershing thing. Didn't probably need that whole storyline, but they opened it, so I want to see what happens with it now. What are they going to do with that? As far as Mandalore, are the Mandalorians going to go back to Mandalore? They're going to leave their little sanctuary on Navarro. Is Grief Karga and maybe the Tuttle guy, Tim Meadows, are they going to provide some assistance with that maybe? And go save Mandalore. But yeah, I'll just see what happens. I'll let you guys know.
It's kind of a big whatever for me. I like watching this show. It kind of feels like a comfort food, but a comfort food that's like, oh wow, I feel good, but that doesn't taste good, if that makes sense. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Or you feel bad after you ate your comfort food.
100%. So, I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at. I have nothing else to say. I want this series and show to succeed, but I don't know, partner. I don't think it will.
It does feel like, though, there's no buzz around this season. Like the first 2 seasons, it felt like everyone was talking about it. Luke Skywalker, they had those moments. I feel like nobody's talking about this season of The Mandalore.
Maybe they should have just kept it contained and ended it with season 2.
That would have been a fine ending. Leaving him at Luke would have been great.
Yeah.
All right, everybody, before we close out here, let's do some Arnie's Podcast Awards. This is the part of our show where we give something positive, negative, or something in between. So, Austin or Keith, what are you guys feeling?
Yeah, I'm sticking with my bad attitude for this episode. I'm going to give the honorary Mark Hamill Regression Award to Mr. Jon Favreau.
No!
Season 2 of The Mandalorian was great, and then he regressed to Season 3. This is one of the worst things I've watched in a long time. It might even be down there with Halloween Kills and Morbius. So, Mr. Jon Favreau, you're a Star Wars person. It's only fitting that you get the honorary Mark Hamill Regression Award.
Damn, sorry, John.
And of course, that award is because Mark Hamill did such a big leap from A New Hope to The Empire Strikes Back. And then, unfortunately, he came back for Return of the Jedi. And it was such a downgrade in his performance from The Empire Strikes Back. So he was given the honorary Mark Hamill Regression Award because of his performance. And now anybody that we feel like has regressed gets that award in honor of Mr. Mark Hamill.
Okay. Damn, sorry, John. I love you, buddy, but damn. Yeah, it's really not good. I'm going to go ahead and give the Dead Man's Chest Award. And that just goes to Mandalorian Season 3 overall. We get a pirate that looks just like Davy Jones. We get some weird duel fighting that we called out earlier. We also have a blacksmith, the armor. That seems like that's all she does. It's just melting shit in that ring fire in the cave, just like Will Turner. So he speaks the truth. This is the way.
Bootstraps.
Yeah, Dead Man's Chest Award, Mandalorian Season 3.
Let's do this. I have the best one so far. Keith, I'm giving you an award this episode.
Oh, wow.
I'm giving Keith the Ahmed Best Award because I know that's scary. I know that's scary sounding. But, Keith, you are the best of us when it comes to Star Wars. And I would argue Ahmed Best. He is the best of us when it comes to Star Wars. He played Jar Jar Binks when it comes to the Phantom Menace. And then he kind of got shit on for the rest of his entire life. And that reminds me of you, Keith.
Congratulations. You're the ideal Star Wars fan. You always see them through, no matter what garbage they're putting out. You'll watch everything.
Yeah.
You haven't watched the Clone Wars there, so are you really a true fan?
Yeah, you could argue.
But anyways, I'm very happy for you that you're getting the Ahmed Best Award for being such a Star Wars super fan.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I think it's an insult.
Yeah,
though.
it kind of is.
I guess only time will tell. All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you hit that follow button so you never miss any of our upcoming content. Also, if you wouldn't mind sharing us with a friend, we really would appreciate that so we can continue to grow the show. And hey, please leave us reviews as well. Even if you don't want to write anything, leaving us a 5-star review over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts really does help us out. At The Arnies is our social, and thearnies.media is the website. We'll be back next week, on Tuesday specifically, for another episode.
All right, and lastly, we want to hear from you, so please send us a message on Instagram at The Arnies or email us thearniesmedia@gmail.com. What did you think of The Mandalorian Season 3 so far? What are your hopes for the rest of the season? How stinky do you think the Swamp Pirate is on a scale of 1 to 10? Anything you say,
11.
We'll read on the show and react to it live on our latest episode.
So everybody have a great rest of your week. We'll see you next time. And in the meantime, I will be laying in my grave with my favorite Swamp Pirate.
See you. This is the way.